I think in general, in AI and frontier AI development, you want to put this capital into three categories. One is compute. So training and inferencing these models, running these models takes a lot of computing power, and that's where a lot of capital is currently flowing. The second one is talent. There's a real need for extreme expertise in this field, and talent is in high demand. And the third one is data. And yeah, these are basically the three ingredients that you need to have to make like really good AI models currently.
All right. And of course, we know where you are and the focus of the company. So my next question really is trying to understand, where do you think visual AI is going to go next?
Yeah, good question. I think we're like in this phase where, on the one hand, if you look at something like image generation, it has moved from being something more like a gimmick to something that is like making like real or creating real enterprise value and productivity value. So for example, image generation can now do just from a pure text prompt slides, help you create slides. It can help you create like UIs, web designs. And that's something that we are seeing picking up right now. And then I think like in general, visual intelligence as a field will move into multimodal outputs, which means you will be able to combine images, videos, audio, text, all of that in more of like a fluid interface. And I think this is where we will see the models evolving into, the technology evolving into next year.
Now, in previous remarks, you've highlighted how being in Europe has actually been a positive for the company. And that, I have to say, is a very different comment from what we usually get. So expand on that point for us in terms of why do you think Europe is an attractive place to be? And do you have plans to remain on the continent?
Yes. So I'll definitely remain on the continent. We have our headquarters there. We are based in the Black Forest, actually, a town called Freiburg in the southwest of Germany. I think to answer your question, there is like actually quite a lot of really good talent in Europe coming out of the universities. If you look at, for example, our founding team, most of our founders are from like southern German universities. And there is talent is there. I think it's more of a question like how do you bundle it into like a new company? Kind of opens up this question around how do you create an ecosystem that is more startup friendly? How do you get more capital into Europe? But I think in general, the one thing that we definitely have in Europe is talent. I think like another aspect, especially for us, that has been helpful in the past is if you're not in the Silicon Valley like all the time, then that also helps you to create more focus in the company and don't get distracted too easily. And obviously we are not like, I don't know, like hidden somewhere and not interacting with the rest of the world. We're
Right.
like, we have a headquarters there and we have like another office in San Francisco. And I think like this intercontinental, cross-continental collaboration is what kind of sets us apart.
But what is your answer to comments and criticisms on the EU specifically that it's too overregulated?
I think what I found interesting is that when I was talking to policymakers, regulators, there was a little bit of a lack of awareness that frontier technology like ours is actually being developed actively right now in Europe. I think that is changing, and that's a good thing. And then I think, yeah, you want to create like an environment that is that enables like many more startups like ours to exist. I don't want to remain the only one, right? And I think that's something that requires a bit of work. But I also think that we're slowly getting there.
And Robin, I have to ask you as well, do you have any plans to, at one point, potentially IPOing? And if you were to go down that route, would you do it in Europe as well?
That's a good question. I think we'll have to answer this once we're there.
Forward to keep following the progress of the company. But in the meantime, I would also like to get your thoughts in terms of other narratives that we are witnessing in this space. Last week, for instance, we saw the CEO for OpenAI calling it a code red and asking the company to focus on ChatGPT. I'm just wondering, from your point of view, how would you describe the level of competition right now?
Yes, I think like with what we just talked about, right? The technology is actually like in a state where it's providing real enterprise value, and I think with that you see like way more, even more like capital flowing into this, and there were even more like competition emerging. I think like in our position as a startup, we are basically always operating in this kind of code red modus, and that's probably a good thing. Competition is definitely there, but just from my perspective, it has been great fun, and just great fun to be part of that competition and be at the frontier.
But are you concerned that perhaps that will actually change the financial reasoning for some of these companies, that, you know, at one point the competition is just so strong that ultimately it's the user that's going to benefit, and the revenues for companies like yours might actually be impacted as a result?
Yeah, I think what you have to do is remain extremely focused on the one thing that you can do very well. In our case, it's like this combination of making very high quality and also very efficient models. It's like then develop like sticky enterprise workflows around this. And yeah, I think in general, obviously there is like this competition is going on, but again, I think it's pretty early. We're seeing like usage picking up, so I'm fairly optimistic actually.